Hey guys, it's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to tell you all the books that I read in October. Remember last year my October wrap-up was on point because I dressed up as Elsa. This year, however, I didn't have time to get a costume, so I'm just wearing cat ears and saying it's a costume. I know, so lame. I'm not allowed to go anywhere near my cats with these cat ears on because for some reason they completely terrify all the cats. Anyway, getting back to the point of the video, I'm going to tell you what I read in October. So let's go ahead and check in with my TBR and see how I did. So as you can see, I read 4 of the books on that list. So the first book I read this month was Frost Like Night by Sara Raasch, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. This is the concluding novel in the Snow Like Ashes trilogy. I will have an entire series review for this up on my channel within the next couple of weeks, so I'm not going to say too much about this. Just like Ice Like Fire, this one dragged a lot in the beginning of the book. I really enjoyed the way it wrapped up. I thought that it gave me everything that I wanted. I didn't feel like I was coming out of the book unsatisfied. There's a much heavier presence of romance in this third book. The first 2 books didn't really focus a lot on the romance, at least it wasn't memorable in my opinion. The first book is definitely the strongest, but I really did enjoy this. I would definitely recommend the series overall. I felt like this was a solid conclusion. After that, I read Unblemished by Sara Ella, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I do have an entire video review coming for this, so I'm not going to say too much about it in this video, and I was sent an ARC by the publisher in exchange for an honest review. I really enjoyed this. I can't wait to see where Sara Ella takes this story in future books. I really loved Eliana as a character. She was a fantastic protagonist. She was super relatable, and then I loved the fairy tale feeling to this. It's not a fairy tale retelling, but if you like fairy tales in Disney and fairy tale retellings, this is something I think you would also really enjoy. There's a lot of the same elements that you would find in a fairy tale, and I loved all of the references to pop culture she threw in here. It was really well done. So after that, on a whim, I just decided to pick up Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander, or J.K. Rowling. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. This is supposed to be Harry's textbook for his mythological beast class, whatever that thing that he takes with Hagrid. What is that class called? Care of Magical Creatures. Isn't that amazing that they're going to get 5 movies out of this tiny little book? I was mostly just impressed with the fact that J.K. Rowling created so many fictional monsters or beasts or whatever. It has a detailed paragraph of how dangerous the beast is, what it does, what it looks like, some weird quirks about it, and she has it for every single beast in here. Now granted, a couple of these are things you might find in Greek mythology or perhaps Egyptian mythology. I'm really impressed that she has such vivid ideas for what these monsters would look like and that they have these certain personalities. I was just really impressed about that. I wouldn't say this is in any way necessary to read for the Harry Potter series or for the movie at all. I don't know why any other Harry Potter fan wouldn't just get kick out of reading this. So after that, I picked up Heartless by Marissa Meyer, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I received an ARC of this at BEA this past spring, and this comes out on November 8th. Really enjoyed this. Again, I have a whole video for this one coming as well. I have lots of videos coming that I just haven't gotten to yet because I'm lazy, let's just be honest. This is a origin story for Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. I haven't read Alice in Wonderland or Through the Looking Glass, so some of the things in here didn't really make sense, especially the scenes that involve the looking glass, because I don't know what that is at all, but not so much to where I couldn't enjoy it. I just couldn't think too much about it or I'd start getting really confused. So if I just like read it for what it was and moved on, it was fine. I really liked our main protagonist, Catherine. She was feisty and independent, and she just wants to be a baker. It was just so magical and so weird and upside down and topsy-turvy. It felt so much like Alice in Wonderland. I would love to see her write more in this world. And some of the things that are mentioned in Alice in Wonderland about the Queen of Hearts, like painting the roses red, have origin stories. I love when you learn why characters do things like that. It was just really good. I really enjoyed this. And the next book that I read was The Diviners by Libba Bray, which I gave a 3.75 out of 5 stars. I couldn't give it a full 4 stars because I had tried to read this book once before and it did not grab my attention enough to get me to finish it. This is a 1920s occult novel following this young girl, mainly Evie, who is moving from Ohio to New York. When she gets there, she stays with her uncle in the Museum for the Creepy Crawlies. While she's there, these really bizarre murders start to happen. Because of who her uncle is and the business that he runs at the museum, the local police ask him to lend a hand to the investigation and help solve this murder, and Evie kind of gets wrapped up in it as well. On top of Evie's perspective, we get a multitude of others as well. There are probably at least a dozen characters you hear from at some point. The main core cast of like 6 people, but then you get perspectives from different victims or from random people on the street that feel like they have no connection to the storyline, but then in the end they turn out to be fairly important, and the way she wove everything together was so cool. This book was creepy. I was reading it at night in the dark. Sometimes I had to take a break. Scenes with the serial killer and the murders were so creepy and so well done. That was my favorite part of the story, was any scene or such that related to trying to solve the murder. There are also some scenes that involved like Evie's day-to-day life, with her being a flapper and going to parties and getting drunk and stuff, and I didn't find those to be as interesting at all. Kind of felt a little bit more slow and draggy for me. I wanted to get to the serial killer stuff. I didn't really care what party they were at, or just wanted more of the serial killer. That say something about me. Also, one other thing that kind of bothered me, although I understand why it was done, was all like the colloquial slang that they used. I don't know what "it's Jake" means. Like, I don't know what some of these phrases mean, and I didn't understand what they were trying to say some of the times. And sometimes Evie's word choice was just really annoying. Again, it was a great way to add to the atmosphere of the 1920s. Sometimes I was just like over it. More than not, totally enjoyed this, and I can't wait to pick up Layer of Dreams. So the last book I read this month was Inferno by Dan Brown, and I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And I actually listened to the majority of this on audiobook. This is the 4th book in the Robert Langdon series, so it's about a symbologist Harvard professor who oftentimes gets swept up into these weird mysteries that involve symbols and weird rituals and historical significant type things. In this one, he wakes up in a hospital with no memory of the last 24 hours and people trying to kill him. So that's a problem. And this one also revolves around Dante's Inferno, the epic poem. If you like any of his other books in the series, you're gonna like this one. It's the same recipe for a super fun, action-packed adventure with crazy amounts of history. You learn so much when you read these books. There's always like the fun clues and the symbology. If you haven't liked any of the other books, you're not gonna like this one either, because it's like the same thing, just with a different plot line. I did notice though that when I was listening to this in an audiobook, that in the middle of running from the police or chasing down bad guys or whatever Langdon was doing, he would stop at buildings and be like, oh, this is the building that was built in the 1700s and it's renowned for its architecture, and look at the glistening tiles on the roof. Dude, why are you giving me a history lesson right now? You are running from the police. I don't understand why this is important at this moment. I never noticed that before in his other books, but listening to it, there were so many scenes that I could totally tune out because he was just describing buildings to me, or paintings, or frescoes, or whatever. I was unfortunate to realize while listening to the audiobook, but the audiobook was super fast-paced and super fun. I think the narrator did a great job. The movie just came out this past weekend, and I'm really excited to go see it. I'm interested to see how they're going to translate it to screen. I've liked the movies in the past that they've done. I've liked the adaptations, so I'm really excited for this one too. These are all the books that I read in October. I would love to know what your favorite book that you read was this month. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'll talk to you very soon. Bye!